The morning the engines died. A silence no pilot ever forgot. No pilot who survived the war ever forgot the moment the sky went silent. Reports from Allied, Axis, and neutral flights all describe the same surreal event occurring within the same 3-minute window. At 9:17 in the morning, over at least 6 different combat zones, engines sputtered, coughed, and then died completely, as if the air itself had suddenly rejected combustion. Pilots who were seconds away from strafing runs found themselves drifting helplessly. Bombers that had been roaring across the clouds with tons of ordnance began to glide like paralyzed birds. Even transport aircraft, far from the fighting, felt the same sudden and absolute shutdown. Crews described the silence as unnatural, heavy, and physical, as though sound itself had been removed from the world. The first instinct was sabotage. Some believed they had sucked in bad fuel. Others thought they had suffered catastrophic mechanical failures. But when pilots from opposing nations, men who should have been killing each other, met the eyes of enemy aviators drifting silently beside them, fear replaced hostility. They were sharing something no doctrine, no training manual, no war plan had ever prepared them for. A German fighter ace later testified that he watched a British bomber glide alongside him for nearly a minute. Neither fired. Neither ran. They simply looked at each other as both aircraft fell through an eerie, powerless descent. One of the bomber's crew members waved at him, not mockingly, not threateningly, but with the stunned expression of someone witnessing a force beyond human control. Ground crews on every front stared upward in disbelief. Instead of the usual thunder of engines and explosions cluttering the sky, there was only the faint whistle of dead machines drifting earthward. Anti-aircraft guns paused. Spotters dropped their binoculars. Some believed it was the end of the world. Others believed the enemy had unleashed a new secret weapon, but no nation ever accepted responsibility, and no scientist could explain why every ignition system failed simultaneously. When the engines finally restarted just as abruptly as they had died, chaos erupted. Aircraft lurched violently as fuel reignited, some spiraling out of control, others barely regaining stability before hitting the ground. Dozens crashed. Several vanished entirely, but the silence, that impossible, worldwide silence, remained the element that haunted survivors most. For those 3 minutes, the war paused. For those 3 minutes, humanity caught a glimpse of something larger than conflict, larger than nations, larger even than the pilots themselves. And no one, to this day, can fully explain what happened, the unseen force. What the engineers and scientists found and feared in the weeks following the incident, every major military research office launched classified investigations. Engineers dismantled engines down to their final screws, searching for combustion anomalies, electrical shortouts, mechanical failures, anything that could justify a synchronized global blackout. None of their findings matched the scale of the event. No pattern existed. The types of aircraft affected varied widely: piston fighters, heavy bombers, maritime reconnaissance planes, high-altitude escorts, even experimental prototypes running modified engines. The Americans initially suspected a high-altitude electromagnetic pulse, though such technology was far beyond the capabilities of any country at the time. British analysts believed it might have been an atmospheric pressure collapse, but meteorological data from the day showed no unusual patterns. German scientists suggested a disruption of oxygen density, though that hypothesis collapsed when evidence revealed that aircraft flying at drastically different altitudes did the most. Disturbing speculation came from a team of Soviet physicists who secretly studied the incident years later. Their severely restricted papers, uncovered after the Cold War, referenced a mysterious spike in stratospheric conductivity detected by remote monitoring balloons. Something in the upper atmosphere had resonated, a word repeated multiple times in a way no natural phenomenon should. The Soviet report warned that if the event had lasted even 30 seconds longer, thousands of aircraft might have crashed simultaneously, altering the outcome of the war entirely. Engineers on all sides noted another frightening detail: none of the engines showed damage afterward. Once restarted, every aircraft functioned normally, as if the shutdown had been imposed externally rather than caused internally. It was as though the engines had all obeyed a single silent command. The inability to explain this led to panic behind closed doors. Military planners feared the enemy had developed a weapon capable of halting entire air fleets at will. Scientists feared humanity had encountered an atmospheric anomaly so rare and so violent that it might return unpredictably. But a small, secretive group of analysts feared something else entirely, that the event was not technological, not natural, and not human. That fear, never officially acknowledged, became the seed of the greatest conspiracy theory the war ever produced, that something beyond human science had brushed the world that morning, leaving humanity with a warning no one could interpret. The testimonies buried by war. What the pilots saw in the silent skies as military intelligence scrambled to explain the phenomena. Hundreds of pilot testimonies quietly circulated through field offices and command centers. Many were dismissed as stress hallucinations. Others were confiscated and buried under classification stamps that would remain sealed for decades. Yet, when the accounts are compared, the patterns are too consistent to ignore. Several pilots claimed that just seconds before their engines died, the sky dimmed slightly. Not darkened like a storm, but dimmed as though something enormous was passing between the Earth and the Sun. A British squadron leader described a shadow that had no shape, stretching across the clouds like a stain moving far too quickly. A Japanese bomber navigator recalled a ring of trembling light that expanded outward just before the silence hit, though, he admitted later, he feared he had imagined it. One of the most chilling testimonies came from an American P-38 pilot who said the aircraft instruments flickered right before the engine failure. He reported that his compass spun wildly, his altimeter froze, and his radio emitted a long, low hum he had never heard before and never heard again. When the engines died, moments later, he felt the plane lift slightly, as if something unseen had taken hold of it. He claimed another plane drifted so close to him that he could see terror in the German pilot. Both men were equally powerless. Both men simply fell together through the silent void. A Luftwaffe pilot later recounted seeing small flashes of light inside the clouds. Not lightning, but something organic, as though tiny, luminous particles were swirling. His report was confiscated immediately, and he was ordered never to speak of it. He believed the flashes were related to the shutdown, but he also admitted he wasn't sure if the phenomena were in the sky or in his own mind. Perhaps the most controversial testimony came from a Portuguese civilian pilot flying a mail route that morning. Because Portugal was neutral, his testimony carried no political agenda. He stated plainly that during the silence he heard a low, resonant vibration, not loud, not painful, but pervasive, as if it came from the air itself. The engines returned abruptly, but the vibration continued for nearly 20 seconds afterward. Researchers dismissed his claim, but decades later, physicists noted that atmospheric resonance could theoretically affect combustion under extreme conditions. Thousands of pilots experienced the silence. Most described only the terror of losing power. But the small handful who reported the strange lights, shadows, vibrations, or instrument anomalies provide a chilling possibility. Whatever caused the engines to fail might not have been a mechanical disruption at all, but a temporary alteration of the sky itself. The aftermath that was erased, what the governments hid, and why. When the engines restarted and the war resumed its violent rhythm, military leaders entered the most frantic reporting period of the conflict. Dozens of aircraft crashed. Several vanished over the sea without a trace. Battles that depended on air support collapsed into chaos. But more disturbing than the tactical consequences was the reaction of the governments themselves. Every major nation classified the event immediately, forbidding pilots, engineers, or officers from speaking publicly about it. Why? Because the silence terrified them. If the enemy had developed the ability to shut down engines anywhere in the world, air superiority could evaporate overnight. If the phenomenon was natural, then the skies could betray pilots at any moment. And if it was neither, or if it came from some unknown force, then no military doctrine could protect their nations. Internal memos reveal how deeply the panic went. A British intelligence officer wrote that the blackout was the single most strategically dangerous moment of the war. An American general ordered all research into atmospheric anomalies sealed. A German field marshal demanded his scientists determine whether the Allies had achieved a breakthrough, unknown to the Reich. And the Japanese high command reportedly believed it was a form of divine intervention until physicists explained the impossibility of such an interpretation. The event was buried not out of deception, but out of fear. Admitting that no one understood what happened would have undermined national morale, shaken military confidence, and fueled rumors far more dangerous than silence. Governments agreed silently, unofficially, that the incident would never be acknowledged publicly. After the war, Most documents were destroyed. Survivors grew old and died with their stories fragmented and forgotten. Only a handful of records resurfaced decades later, hinting at a phenomena that shook the world for 3 minutes and left behind a trail of questions too dangerous to answer. The silence in the sky lasted 3 minutes. The silence from governments lasted generations. To this day, no scientific model fully explains the synchronized shutdown of engines across multiple nations, fronts, and altitudes. It remains one of the rarest and most unsettling mysteries of the Second World War, a moment when humanity, guns still warm, and hatred still burning, paused to something unknowable, pressed a finger to the sky, and forced the world to listen.